The Valet is a romantic comedy about a famous actress and a poor valet, who meet due to unusual circumstances and end up becoming important parts of each other's lives. Antonio was an ordinary guy who worked as a valet at a very expensive and famous hotel. Just like every day, he got off work, went to pick up his son from school, and went straight home. He was greeted by Mr. Kim, who was the landlord of this building. He was over to fix the drainage in the bathroom. This was the third time he was over to fix something. Antonio was concerned about the building's maintenance and told his mother that he would go and talk to him about it. His mother stopped him and revealed the truth behind the frequent visits. She and Kim were in a relationship. He was over to spend time with his mother and not fix anything. Antonio was shocked. He asked her how this relationship was possible. Kim did not speak Spanish and his mother could not understand Korean. She said that their connection was on a deeper and more personal level and the language barrier did not matter as they understood each other perfectly. Olivia was a famous and celebrated actress. After the shoot, she put on baggy clothes that covered her completely and drove out of there, sneaking past the paparazzi who were always following her. She went over to meet her boyfriend. Vincent was preparing to run for mayor of the city and was a married man. He assured Olivia numerous times that he would get a divorce, but had never acted on those words. He convinced her that it was not technically cheating because Vincent and his wife were on bad terms, and were on the brink of leaving each other. Though this time, she had had enough and felt guilty sleeping with a married man. Olivia was done with his lies, broke up with him, and stormed out. He went after her, calling her and asking her for a little more time. Outside the hotel, Antonio was passing by. He collided with a car that was waiting for Olivia and fell down. She helped him stand back up and Vincent quickly passed some cash to the driver to avoid creating a scene. But it was too late, as a guy had already clicked pictures of them. The next morning, these pictures were everywhere on the internet. Olivia was freaking out about this. She had a new movie coming, and a scandal like this could ruin her ratings. Over at Vincent's house, he was busy convincing his wife Catherine that he had nothing to do with Olivia and had never even met the actress. She was skeptical of him as in the past. He had already cheated on her once, but he manipulated her into believing him this time again. Vincent met with his lawyer and asked him to help him out of this crisis. After some thinking, he finally came up with a solution. He proposed that Olivia should date the poor valet. This would take the spotlight off of Vincent and her affair. The lawyer went over and talked to Antonio about this plan. He offered him a huge amount of money if Antonio would cooperate. Antonio was still hung over his wife, Isabel, who had recently left him for someone else, and wanted her back. He knew that if he could manage to get some money for her, she would appreciate his love for her and come back. He only asked for $12,000 in return to act as Olivia's boyfriend. Vincent talked to Olivia. This was the only way she could save her reputation and not be labeled as the girl who sleeps around with a married man. Olivia was on board with this. She went over to Antonio's stand and kissed him in front of everyone. Then they went on a date and made sure all of the paparazzi were present there. They took a lot of photos of them both and in no time their relationship was public. She even took him to the premiere of her film, as her new love interest. Everyone was shocked at how a beautiful famous actress could date an ordinary valet. At the premiere, Antonio was sweating and nervous due to the whole situation he was in. He was standing awkwardly, trying to blend in. Catherine walked over and started inquiring him. She was sure this whole relationship was a ruse and wanted Antonio to tell her the truth. She even offered him money, and said that she would pay him triple of what her husband was paying him, to keep his affair a secret. There was no way that Olivia Allen was wasting her time with a valet. Antonio felt insulted. He shut her down by telling her how shallow she was and walked away to find his date. He found Olivia drunk and sad, sitting on the stairs. She asked him to take her out of there, without the press knowing her condition. Antonio called his friends and brother-in-law. They picked them up and drove out of there, sneaking past the media. On the way back, his friend wanted to get something to eat. However, the others were worried sick. They were scared of the police pulling them over and finding a drunk white girl in a Latino's car. Finally, they got home. Olivia slept in Antonio's bed, while he slept on the chair next to it. The next morning, when Olivia woke up, she was welcomed by everyone in Antonio's and Kim's family. The house was filled with aunties and uncles and their children, who were there to meet her. They made her breakfast and pushed her to eat as much food as she could. They made her feel genuinely welcomed and loved. Olivia saw her family occasionally and found this all very warm and fuzzy. She loved how Antonio's family was so close and concerned about one another. This was all very new to her and filled her heart with joy. Isabel came to drop off their son and saw Olivia in the living room. She felt jealous of Antonio and could not believe he had such game. Before he could tell her the truth, she left. Olivia loved her time at Antonio's house and left in the afternoon. That night, her new movie's reviews had come in. She did great, the critics loved the movie and her performance. She wanted to celebrate this success but realized that she had no friends, and the only people she knew were her publicist and assistant, who were both busy with their own families. She felt lonely and decided to call Vincent. He got mad at her for calling him when he was at home. He was afraid his wife could find out about all the lies and ended the call. Earlier at Antonio's house, his son had invited her to. They ate a lot of good food, laughed at each other's silly jokes and danced the whole night. She asked him if she could spend the night over at his house as she hated being alone. He had no problem with this and they slept in the same bed. The next morning, Antonio met his wife Isabel. He told her the truth about his relationship with Olivia. She was taken aback. Suddenly all her feeling for him were gone. She said that she didn't want to be with a loser who never took any risks. He walked through life as if he doesn't deserve anything. She said that she was going to marry the realtor she was dating and left. Antonio was mad and upset. The only reason she came back to him was because she was jealous of his affair with a beautiful woman. But now that she knew the truth, she was no longer interested in him. He got home and lashed out at Olivia. She was just using him and his family to fill her pit of loneliness. There were people outside his building taking photos of them. Antonio told them they have broken up. The same time, Vincent showed up and yelled at him. He thought that they were both sleeping together. Later that day, Vincent's lawyer met Antonio and gave him a check. It was much more than what Antonio had originally asked for. He refused to take it. The lawyer told him that he was also from the same neighborhood and knew how the money could help him. He insisted he take what he deserved. But Antonio had something else on his mind. He wanted him to stop Vincent's corporate company from building a hotel in his neighborhood, as it would affect a lot of people and their small businesses who were working there from decades. The lawyer assured him that he would do whatever was possible to help. When he got home, unfortunately, his mother had passed away. At her funeral ceremony, Antonio thanked Mr. Kim. He was the reason behind his mother's happiness in her past days. Although she had lived a hard life, she always stayed positive and loved everyone with a gracious heart, and asked her children to do the same. Her passing was a huge loss to the family and friends. Days passed and today, while he was working, Olivia visited him. They both apologized to each other and she expressed her sadness over his mother's loss. Olivia was in the right mind now. She met with Vincent's wife and told her the truth. They both decided to take revenge from that lying evil man and even Antonio helped. Antonio had transformed into a different man. He lived with confidence and decided to finally ask his crush out for a date. He and Olivia were good friends now and she frequently visited him and his family. And this is where the movie ends.